Our next speaker is from the academic side, Dr. Bruce Gooch, Assistant Professor of Computer Science at UVic. Associate, someone had assisted on your bio. Co-author of several books, including Non-Photorealistic Rendering and the upcoming, I believe, Illustrative Graphics and Visualization.
Yes.
You brought the book to plug?
No.
Currently using video games as a motivational tool in unique obesity intervention, whereby I believe you use exercise machines, serve as haptic game controllers, and you do biometric, real-time biometric feedback. Might be really good for me then. It doesn't say where you got your PhD, but I'm going to guess Texas A&M?
University of Utah.
Bloody close. I heard the goatee. Want to brief it?
That's to talk about industry relations and working with industry as an academic. Let's see. I've worked with Mitsubishi Electronic Research Laboratories, Disney Feature Films, Microsoft Research, Microsoft, Intel, IBM, Valve, Light Fitness, Electronic Arts, Sony Interactive, Nokia, ICBC, and NVIDIA. Most of these people have sponsored my research either with cash, in-kind donations, or internships, or just letting me call their engineers. Phone numbers are an amazing resource. And I think it's one of the things that we don't realize on the academic side, right? Just contact with somebody. Hey, this doesn't work. Hey, Dad, do this, right? That saves me days or hours or forever sometimes. I've also started, I've also been a bunch of startup companies. I've been part of them. DJ Arts is a casual gaming company. AdWords.com are advertising folks. TuneFX is a company that turns video into cartoons in real time. Relevant Games is another casual gaming company. And then Anger and Entertainment, I'm on the board, is a film company. They make animated films. As I was writing all of this down, as I was sitting over thinking about this, writing all of this down, how did all of these things come about? How do I work with this? I know almost everybody I met as a graduate student. Every single thing that I've done came from a personal relationship. I was sitting at a table at dinner, or I was drinking beer with somebody, and I talked about a problem that I had. And strangely enough, they had a problem. And my problem and their problem often weren't the same thing. So let's just talk about a couple of them. I worked with Mitsubishi Electronic Research Laboratories. I worked with a guy named Ramesh Rajkar that I'd known since graduate school. And I was talking about a camera filter that we were working on. And the idea behind this was that if I take a picture, cameras are ubiquitous. I get a certain format. I get like a 3x5 format. Well, what if I want to view that on my cell phone? My cell phone doesn't allow me to look at 3x5. And so how do I chop up the important information? I just want to see my wife and kid and build this thing. And Ramesh and I talked, and then Michael Gleiser at the University of Wisconsin talked about this over lunch and ended up collaborating on a system. We patented this, and you can now buy, this is my big claim to fame, a Nikon camera with a slimming filter. That's where my technology has been used. That's why Yahoo. It'll make you look about 30 pounds lighter. Just hit slim, you look great. This is a big seller.
Can you hit it twice?
Yeah. You start looking like those old Italian movies, the Clint Eastwood ones where they do the pull-out, but yeah, I always do. Disney Feature Films, it was a guy that I'd met at a conference, and he just called me up and said, I need interns, and I need them tomorrow, or the money goes away. Microsoft Research actually put out an RFP. This is the only time that I didn't know somebody. I applied for an RFP to work with games in education, and it changed the way that I do research. It kind of changed my life. It's what got me into the idea of doing games and exercise, because I said, you know what? The other thing that I've done in my life, in computer graphics, there's 4 shading models. Phong shading, the row shading, torrent sparrow shading, there's Gooch shading, this thing that I did when I was in grad school. Saturday morning cartoons got about 1% better because of me. When I started looking at the games, at using games, and this idea of using games in fitness, 30% of Canadian kids are overweight. That number's up almost 100% over the last 10 years. any intervention that we're doing today isn't working, right? It's a huge problem. Corresponding rise in type 2 diabetes. And what I thought is, you know what, I have a chance to work on a big problem. On a problem that's actually going to change somebody's life. You know, kind of the reason I got into science versus, gee, I'm gonna make a drawing package. And I talked to this guy that I'd known at Microsoft, and I said, hey, could you help me with this? And he got me in touch with the game guys, got me more money. Well, let's get a personal relationship. And then a problem that I have. The Intel one, the guys just didn't have an office in Victoria. There's no office space in Victoria. Intel has requirements for office space. I said, hey, why don't you embed at the university? And they said, could we do that? And I went and talked to the dean, and he said, yeah, if Intel wants to pay this much, and he quoted some crazy figure, the Intel guy said, oh, that's about half of what we were willing to pay. So there's an Intel lab embedded with us. Right, once again, it was this guy over at my house for a barbecue, saying I can't find land. The Life Fitness guy I met online. I was trying to buy a recumbent bicycle, and he had one for sale in Seattle. I call him to say, hey man, can I get this recumbent bike? And then I started telling him about this project. And he's like, yeah, actually I'm the vice president of Life Fitness. And I'd gone to a trade show, and it's just too expensive to ship the bikes back after the trade show. And I've already sold it. And I'm like, darn. And he said, but if you'll buy a pallet of them, I'll give them to you for cost. And I'm like, okay. So I got 6 for about the price of 1, which was amazing for me, right? That was fantastic. Electronic Arts, John Buchanan. My friend Ben Watson knew John, and that's how we started working with Electronic Arts. Once again, complete personal relationships. Sony Interactive, I went to dinner with John Nordlinger from Microsoft Research. The Sony Interactive guys were there, and they'd just taken all this heat in the press about how video games were really lowbrow and kids were learning all these nasty little things, and there was no real learning going on. John and I started talking. It turns out that there were about some crazy number, 40 million or something people who were playing EverQuest in France. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if we started teaching language, French language, to people and having them interact in this game, in-game, with native speakers? And I had a graduate student that was at dinner with us, and we started talking about this. We're like, wow, we could do this. We went back to school, we started building scaffolding, we talked to the French instructors, and they got really mad at us. And they said, absolutely not, we will not do this. People chat and they don't use proper grammar. So we went down the hall to BSL folks, to English as a second language people, and they said, yes, let's do it now. I've written 10 research papers on that. And the Sony one is one of the craziest ones that I've ever worked with. Because the person, what they can do for us, we send them all of our papers, we thank them, and they give us seats on EverQuest. This saves me a couple $1,000s a year. The crazy thing is that person has changed. Like, the person's rotated out of that job about 20 times. And, you know, one of the questions was, how do we remove barriers? One of the talking points. For us, it's been persistence.